So, going to take these and some white cotton fabric and cut them out. So, for the back panel, I just cut one. And it says cut one. And then for the, wait, no. This is the, they both say back panel. Okay, these are the front panels. This is the back panel. So, cut one of this. And then this is the front panel. So, you cut two of these. And you cut two of the sleeves. So now I take the back panel piece and the front panel pieces, and I'm going to sew. So I'm going to take one of these, I'm going to take one of the side panels, and I'm going to line it up at the edge. And if your material has a bad side, then you're going to want the bad side facing out and the good side facing on the inside. But since this cotton doesn't really have a bad side, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to line it up at the edges, then sew a quarter of an inch, maybe a little less, across the shoulder. I'm going to repeat on both sides. Then I cut off the excess fabric on the edges, making sure you don't cut too close to the fabric. Just a little bit. And now that we have this, now we're going to take the sleeves. Oh, I also forgot to mention that you need to make sure your thread is white for this shirt. And that your thread is the blue color, is navy blue, to match the pants. So, yeah. So, take the sleeves. There's hair all over them. Okay, so then going to line them up, making sure that the good side would be facing on the inside once again. And I'm actually going to take this and fold it in half. The good side right now will be on the outside. And then line it up at the center. Then when it unfolds, the good side will be facing the inside. And then pin it in place to keep okay. So then pin it in place. And now just going to place it into the machine. I'm going to make a stitch. Then after you make one little stitch in the center, then going to move the fabric so it keeps lining up with the sides. So it connects evenly to the side. And then you can continue all the way until you get to the end of the sleeve. Make sure you're leaving a quarter of an inch seam allowance when you're sewing this. Then when you get to the end of one side, then you're going to raise the foot, going to flip it around, and you're going to sew back across the line that you just sewed on, and you're going to repeat the same process with connecting the other side. And make sure you don't lower your foot. Then when you get to the end of the next side, you're going to raise the foot, flip it around, put the foot down, and you're going to sew back to the center so both lines are double stitched. Make sure to lock your stitch at the end. Then repeat on both sides. And now I'm just going to cut off the excess fabric on the edge that we sewed on, not anything from past the end line of the stitch. Mostly on just the curved part, it's where we're going to cut off the excess. Then cut a strip of the fabric that is 3.5 inches long. Mine is actually 3.25 because I was testing out if that would work. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to recut it. And so this is 3.25. You're probably going to want to do 3.5 by 3.25 inches. So, and you might want to do like 3/4 of an inch, but then add on half of a quarter. So, yeah, make sure it's, you have the little extra fretty bits off. So, and so what you're going to do with it, you're going to take it and you're going to fold it half of a quarter. So you're going to fold it 2/16 of an inch over on the edge, which I already did, so it makes it easier to show. So, and then after you do that, then you're going to fold over again, but this time it's going to be folded over 1/4 of an inch. And then, depending on what you cut, I would go with the longer width. Then it would leave you a little bit on the edge. But first, we're going to take the edge, how it was, and fold it over just on the edge, and then sew it down. And try to make sure that it's still on the edge, but don't go over it because it is such a tiny edge. Okay, so then after you sew the edge down, so it looks like this. Kind of went a little lopsided right there, but it's fine. Okay, so then after you sew it, then you're going to make sure, so you're going to make sure that the bad side is facing upwards, or well, I guess it's facing you, because it's facing me at the moment, and then you're just going to fold over the sides just a teensy bit, like the same amount that this is folded over, which is like half of a quarter of an inch, so like 2/16. So very small amount. You're going to fold it over on both sides, and then you're going to fold it so the top part, which with the hem, comes down 1/4 of an inch. So make sure you fold it in on the sides and then fold it down like that. And then you are going to sew a line across each end, just going down on both sides. Okay, so then after you sew down the side, then you're going to take the edges, making sure that the bad side is facing towards you. So see, bad side is facing towards me. And I'm just going to fold over the sides about half of 1/4 of an inch, so like 2/16. So it might be a little bit over. So then you just gotta fold it over, and you're going to sew down the sides, just a little line across each side on both sides. Okay, so then after you sew the sides down, then you're going to take the giant piece that we were sewing earlier, and going to take the collar piece. You're going to make sure that the good side is facing up. Make sure both good sides, the good side on the giant piece of fabric is facing up, and the good side on this piece is facing up. And then just line them up at the edges of the collar, making sure there's the same amount of space left on each side, which should be about 1/4 of an inch. And then sew it in place. And it really helps if you use pins to pin it down. Okay, so then after you sew the collar on, it will look like this. A bunch of white fabric. But now, going back to the sleeves, which is this part with the little curve. So making sure that the good side of the fold will be facing up. Fold over the fabric on the ends 1/4 of an inch and sew it down on both sides. Okay, so then after the cuffs are sewed, I sewed them in pretty straight lines. So then going to take the curves, making sure that both good sides will be facing up, and going to fold it over on the bottom curve, which is on the big curved piece, and then you're going to do it on the half curved pieces as well, making sure that all the good sides are facing up with the good side of this. It helps if you make a few cuts on the curve before you go to fold it over. And also use pins that really helps as well. Okay, so then after you're done sewing those, then you're going to take the entire thing and you're going to fold it in half, lining up the edges and sew down the edges, starting from one of the cuffs going down and then going to the side, just along there, not along here because we need this open. So only from there going to there on both sides. Okay, so after I finished sewing it, I flipped it inside out and tried it on the doll, and yeah, I don't remember this, but this is just, I think because I accidentally took it in a little bit more on the sides than I meant to. But when I close it, I mean, if you just do 1/4 of an inch, or maybe even a little less, then you should be able to close. But with mine, I can't fold it over. I can't fold this part over to put the Velcro on. I just have to leave it plain. But since I do have to do that, I can set my sewing machine to a zigzag stitch. Now I'm using my number 2 because it's the smallest on my sewing machine. But so with setting it on 2, I can just zigzag the edge so that it doesn't fray. And I'm doing it on the side that I would close, which is on the left side when you're looking at the doll. And I wouldn't recommend doing locking your stitch when doing a zigzag stitch. I mean, because the first time that I did it, it got caught. Well, actually, maybe it was after a few times, but I'm just going to try it a different way by just taking the ends and just knotting and tying them. I knotted each end like 3 times to make sure it was extra secure, and the zigzag stitch does give it a nice, clean, neat edge. So, and I'm not going to do that on the other side since it's going to be covered with Velcro. I might change my mind in a minute, but now it's time for Velcro. So I cut a piece of Velcro that is the same length as the side, and now on the zigzag edge side, I'm going to take the more fuzzy part, which should be the, I don't remember exactly, but I'm just going to place it on the, making sure that the fuzzy part, when it's closed, would be facing the inside. But before I sew on the Velcro, I'm going to take this, and because there's these little sides, I'm going to make sure they're folded over, make sure this is up straight, and then do a top stitch right underneath the line right there, right underneath the seam, so this stands up. Then after I sew on one side of the Velcro, I'm going to take the other side, and I'm going to take the hook part of the Velcro. I'm going to make sure that it's on the outside of the coat this time, so that when you fold it over, it closes on top of each other, closing the shirt. Then after I finish sewing the Velcro, I fold over the collar about 1/4 of an inch, and it makes the shirt. It might look a little weird not on doll, but it looks really good on doll. So,